What?
China?
You look like somebody just walked over your grave.
All right, we have the housing market update for the second week of April, and what a volatile 2 weeks we have had. And I hope you all enjoyed my tribute to Val Kilmer, certainly one of the biggest movie stars, certainly of my youth, growing up, young adulthood. Let me tell you, there's a lot going on, and a lot of it has to do with President Trump and the actions that he and his administration are taking to bring down the actions that they are taking to kind of level the playing field from a trade perspective across the world. So let's get into kind of what's going on. The big three: prices and inventory are up. We got the Honolulu Board of Realtors report come out this week. We can see inventory really the highest since COVID. And then the bad news, though, we got one red arrow, and that is rates. Rates are up, erasing all the gains that we had last week. All right, so let's look at the headline news. Well, we have tariffs taking precedence over any of the economic news that we had this week. We had a great inflation report on Thursday. This consumer price index report came in really solid. We'll look at those numbers, but you know what? Didn't matter, because the tariff information coming out, the movement in the stock market, the rumors and innuendo really are hurting the bond market, to include mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. Honolulu home values, again, the Honolulu Board of Realtors, they came out with their March housing report. Very, very solid report for buyers and for sellers. And then the last, we'll go over VA rates, mortgage rates up about 1% in a week, not about 0.75%, but still, that's a lot. Probably the biggest movement, one of the biggest movements, intra-week movements I've seen, certainly since COVID. Okay, let's talk about tariff tantrums. I don't know if I think I made that up, actually. All right, tariff tantrums, that's right. One of the largest market swings, and what I'm showing you today is the 10-year Treasury. And if you look at the 10-year Treasury, last week, the 10-year Treasury and mortgage-backed securities or mortgage rates, they do a dance together, and usually about 2%, 2 to 2.5%. Ideally, they're 1.5%, but right around 2% higher than the 10-year Treasury interest rates are, 30-year fixed rate. Well, last week, you can see those red bars. That was a 10-year Treasury going down. Interest rates came down with them. We saw a drop from around 6.25 down to just under 6% in VA rates. You can see the 10-year Treasury, it was going lower, and there was a lot more room for it to get lower. And that hammer, that red hammer, that was Friday. All right, they got really low on Friday, and then at the end of the day, they kind of slowed down. Large part, I think, due to the jobs report that really was very good jobs report that came out on Friday. And then you see all those green bars. That's this week. That is the 10-year Treasury moving higher. And guess what else moved higher? That's right, mortgage rate. As the administration is going through its permutations of tariff threats and tariff actions, the bond market, in addition to the stock market, but in particular, the bond market has been really volatile. There have been a lot of fears that the Chinese, who own a ton of our bonds and our treasuries, that they're going to sell everything off. Well, they're not going to do that, because if they do, they're going to lose a butt ton of money, because the value of those treasuries is so much lower than when they purchased them. But those rumors are out there. They have not come to fruition, but they are helping to keep mortgage rates, or keep them up, push them up, and certainly the 10-year Treasury as well. You can see we have gone above the 200-day, the 100-day, the 50, and the 25-day moving average. And if we get above 4.45 on that 10-year Treasury, it's going to get ugly, because there's a lot more room for that 10-year to go up, and consequently interest rates, mortgage rates to go up as well. Remember, at the beginning of last week, we were talking about the Fed possibly cutting the Fed funds rate 5 times. By the end of the week, like, maybe only twice. You know what? Who knows? You know, a lot of it really is going to depend on the inflation reports that come out at the end of the month, and really we'll see what happens in April at their next meeting. But hey, don't you like tariff tantrums? I think I made that up. I'm going to patent that. All right, consumer price index. That is the first of the inflation reports that come out. And headline inflation was down, fellas and gals, from 2.8% in February to 2.4% in March. Big drop, and one of the biggest reasons for that, gasoline prices coming down. All right. Gasoline prices coming down at the pump. The core, which is what we're really looking at, that takes out the food and energy prices. Core was actually down from 3.1 to 2.8%. A lot of that had to do with airline prices coming down. Airline prices due to lower fuel prices and actually lack of demand. People aren't traveling as much right now with fear of everything that's going on, certainly in the world economy. Airline fares actually dropped 5.3% last week. So right now it's probably a good time to buy your airline tickets if you're looking to travel. Annualized, if you look at the annualized core run rates though, we're at 2.8% for the last 12 months, but it's a little higher. 6 months, 2.3% or 3%, and then the last 3 months at 2.9%. So we're right in that range between 2.8 and 3%. It's not bad. It's not where we want, but it's still, if we can stay in that range, I think we're good with the inflation readings. But really a very good inflation report on Thursday, but market didn't care. Market went up. All right, let's get into the HBR, the Honolulu Board of Realtors housing market update for March of 2025. You will see median sales prices for single-family homes down slightly from 1.18 to 1.16, so still very high. Median sales price up from in the 490s to 500,000, which is right about where we've been. We'll look at those numbers, but kind of what I want to show, again, I don't really care about yearly numbers. I am more concerned with the recent trends and monthly indicators. March sales show a big rebound, up 23% for single-family homes, 25.9% for condos. Hey, spring season usually starts in February. Well, guess what? Waited a month, and March is, hey, it looks like it's the kickoff. Just having a steady median sales price for single-family homes. Condos, again, back up to 500,000. Median days on market actually down 16.7% from 48 to 40 days, and actually median days on market for single family homes down to 15. Again, the demand is there, people. You need to price it right, and there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of demand out there. So if you have it priced right, that home's going to sell quickly. New listings. Oh my gosh, we'll get into it. We'll break this down more, but new listings showed a huge rebound last month. A month of supply really is up for both condos and for single family homes, in large part due really to the high rate. We can blame that on the high interest rates that we have seen over the course of the last couple years. That's hurting overall home sales. We'd have a lot more home sales if them rates weren't where they're at. What will happen though? What happens if we have a drop in rates? Last week we had a drop in rates down 6%, VA, maybe a little lower, and then conventional down about 6.65. And you saw applications pick up. You saw a lot more action. Maybe that's the floor. Once we hit that number for rates, guess what? It's game on, and you're going to see this inventory go down. We'll take a look at some of these graphs. If rates drop, it's going to cause home prices where they've been kind of steady. It's going to cause them to go up, folks. It's going to cause them to go up, and it's going to eat into this huge amount of inventory that we have right now. All right, so let's look at new listings. We had the largest combined number of new listings in 3 years, 1,166. We have also had the condos were the largest in 3 years, largest number of new listings in 3 years. And single-family homes were the largest, almost near the largest number of new listings last month. So, the last time that we had this many new listings was the spring of 2022. I don't know if y'all remember back that far, but I do. Rates had just started going up, and people had bought in 2020, 2021. They were like, all right, I'm gonna take my money and run. And you saw a lot of people put their home on the market. Well, now you have a lot of people who are putting their homes on the market because they have to sell. Whereas back then, people were getting their asking price and go beyond. It was still very competitive in March and April of March of 2022. Now you don't have as many buyers out there. So, and people have owned their homes for a couple of years, and those people who have to sell, all right, they're putting their homes on the market. There are some deals out there to be had. All right, active inventory, folks. We are over 3,000 homes active inventory. This is the highest amount of active inventory we have had since COVID started. 3,000 plus active homes, single family and condos on the market. Individually, both condos and single family homes hit 3-year highs for active inventory. Buyers, this bodes very well for you. All right, let's look at median sales price. We are on those two elevators. Single family homes right up between 1.15 and 1.18 million. It's just a matter of time before we get to 1.2 million as the median sales price of single family homes in Oahu. Condos were steady right around 500. All right, it's going to take rates probably getting into the fours, certainly low fives to see that spike up again, and probably some moderation in the HOA increases that we've seen over the course of the last year. Insurance needs to come down, but that elevator's not coming down either. We're going to stay steady 500,000 median sales price for condos until we get those rates down into the mid to low fives. Let's look at VA rates now. Rates up again. God, this is such a tough chart to look at. Everyone was so excited. We were all liquored up into last week. Interest rates, I know we were locking them into the mid fives, and then I had one guy I could have locked him in on Friday. He's like, no, I want to wait until rates get into the he want to save extra $100 a month. Email me on Monday, say, hey, can you still lock me in? Sorry, we were over 6% by Monday. So when the time is right, when Larry Gonzalez calls you and says, hey, this is the time to lock, you probably need to lock. All right, not because I want to make money off of you, because there's no guarantee that rates are going to stay low. This is probably one of the shortest time frames where we've had low rates, really 2 days where we had rates low enough to lock in some really good savings on refinances. So where are rates going to go over the course of the next couple weeks? Probably not a lot of movement. We got the Fed meeting next week. That might move the needle if they cut the Fed funds rate, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to hold steady. Really, the next big economic report that comes out is the PCE, which is the last week of April. So don't expect a lot of movement. I think we'll stay between 6.25 and 6.5%. Tariff tantrums aside, that's probably where we're going to stay for the next couple weeks. So what does this all mean? I told you last week you're going to see a huge jump in mortgage applications. We saw that mortgage apps were up 9% last week, or week over week, and then refinances were up 35% last week, up 93% year over year. And basically what this maybe is telling us too is, hey, again, I said it before, 6.65% conventional, 6% VA. That might be the floor. Once we get below that, boom, the market's going to take off again. All right, because we started to see signs of that last week. But you can't wait. All right, I just posted a video talking about waiting for rates to come down before you buy, and how much more you're going to pay. All right, not only out of pocket, but in your monthly mortgage payment if you wait for rates to come down. And it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like it makes sense, but watch that video, people. There'll be a link to that video here in this thread, but certainly the time to buy is right now before those rates drop and buyers start losing the seller credits that help them get the lower payment and pay their closing costs. Sellers April is the time to sell. Time to put your home on the market and see it sell by May. All right, these next 2 weeks are really the best time of the year to put your home on the market. Stay positive. You're going to need seller credits as long as we are in the interest rate that we're at. But once the interest rates go down, you're probably going to be able to reduce or eliminate your seller credits and really make more money, which is kind of what you want to do, right? Parts of the island, though, are still difficult. Mililani, Kailua, Kaneohe. Well, I tell you what, I had some friends realtor friends who had a home in Kailua on the market, multiple offers above asking. Really, if the home is in a great area, it's all about location, right? If you got the home in the right place at the right price, it's going to sell. That's all I have for you this week. Please like, comment, subscribe. Always love hearing your comments, and have a great weekend. Aloha.